Hi, ladies and gentlemen. This is Shelley Kraft coming to you live on SNNLive. We're coming to you live from the Healthcare Week in San Francisco 2015. I have with me Dr. Bob McNally, GeoVax. It's a publicly traded company. The symbol is GOVX. Bob, welcome to SNNLive.
Thanks, Shelley. It's glad to be here.
It's good to have you. Let's get right into it. An overview on the company, please.
Yeah, we're a clinical stage biotech formed in 2001. We actually are a spin out from Emory University in Atlanta, so that's our home base.
Well, we have actually been in the tech transfer conference rooms with Emory University's tech transfer department. Is that that's where you got started?
That's where we got it. That's where we got our original license. Absolutely.
So where are you going now? What's going on in the company?
Well, we've got a couple of interesting things going on. The first one is in the HIV/AIDS vaccine space. We're the first vaccine to graduate out of the Emory University vaccine program. And we've progressed to the point now where our vaccine for North America, the version of HIV for North America, we're actually the leading vaccine candidate. Next one poised to eventually get into phase 2B efficacy trials, which in HIV is really rare. And then the second point is really with Ebola. So we've segued from using our vaccine constructs to applying them to this particular epidemic and actually strategizing ourselves to be like a second generation vaccine for Ebola.
Well, I'm sure that the Ebola disease is probably advancing faster than we know it here in the U.S., and it's probably mutating so that what may have worked before may not work in the future. So you're probably right on target.
Shelley, you're right on. And that's the problem with some of these vaccines that are actually being dusted off the shelf now and going into these early clinical trials. That's why I say that we're going to be a second generation, because this first generation is actually used some of the old version of the virus. We don't know how much it's going to cost to manufacture some of those vaccines. And when you're talking about sub-Saharan Africa, you've got to get a cost that's reasonable, and you've got to be something that's going to be not only long-lasting but effective. And we've been using our vector for HIV now for over 500 individuals have been vaccinated, and we know what our vaccine can produce.
Interestingly enough, and I have to share what I think and how I feel, I think that a lot of the desperation that was evoked when the news started to come west to the U.S. and North America was, oh, what are we going to do? This could affect us. And it began to, dust a lot of treatments off the shelf. But you've had some time to develop it. How soon, I hate to limit you to.
Put me on a limit.
I really, but I'm going to do it anyway. Give me some timing, if you would.
Yeah, for us with Ebola being a second generation, we're really poised to come out into clinicals in 2016. So it'd be roughly the second half of 2016. It takes a while to produce a vaccine. The interesting thing about this is that vaccines take time, and the ones that they're dusting off the shelf are there basically in desperation. They've been on the shelf for a number of years, didn't really have an epidemic to go out there and do a test with them. And so hurriedly they're getting out there. But you're exactly right before in your questions about are they using the right virus that's going to be in there. And we're using sequences that are up to date to this particular epidemic, plus the other two versions of Ebola. There's 3 basic strains, and they're all spread by the fruit bat. And that's why Ebola is never going to really go away. It's going to always come back. It's like rabies in this country. It's indigenous to the animal population. You're not going to get rid of it.
I may be wrong, but it sounds to me like some of your development is platform-oriented. Am I correct?
Exactly right, because we use we call it a pox vector. It was used for smallpox years ago. We licensed it from the NIH through Emory University, and we used that for years in HIV. And that vector is a very effective, long-lasting vector, gives us plenty of room to put genetic material into it. And we create what are really pretty unique, it's what's called virus-like particles. So when you inject somebody with our vaccine, they're actually out of the cellular structure comes either a sphere or more of a cylindrical structure that looks just like the Ebola virus. and it trains your immune system to look for it in the future and tag it with an antibody or kill it off with what are called T cells or your white cells. So that's why we think we're going to be effective and different than other people. So it's our platform using this MVA vector that's licensed in part from the NIH.
When Ebola landed in the U.S., Emory was right on top. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, it's because Emory's actually prepared for it. And let's face it, right next door, those of us who live in Atlanta know that CDC and Emory are neighbors down there. And so you've got the best of all of our scientific prowess who want to study this disease, and you got a wonderful Class A medical center to do the treatment. The fact that we happen to be a vaccine company doing Ebola at the same time didn't really enter into it, but the point was that Emory had the skill sets necessary to treat these patients. And the CDC gained a lot of information about the progression of the disease and potential ways of doing the treatments. And as we all know, they didn't get it necessarily right the first time around, but that's how we learn.
What's your background?
I'm a biomedical engineer, actually. And you say, well, what am I doing in immunology? Actually, it's probably the most difficult thing that I've ever done in my whole business career. But it's probably the most worthwhile thing. We're going after two of the world's big epidemics and scourges. I think the important point here is you don't want to forget that HIV is still the 5th leading cause of death on the globe. And there is no vaccine anywhere on the planet that has been approved yet.
Well, I have to wish you luck because you're doing humankind a service, and hopefully it happens sooner than later. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get a website for GeoVax.
It's www.geovax.com.
That's GEOVAX. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Bob McNally, GeoVax. It's a publicly traded company, and the symbol is GOVX. I'm Shelley Kraft. This is SNNLive, and we're coming to you live from Healthcare Week in San Francisco, 2015. Thank you, Bob, for coming.
Thank you, Shelley. Yeah, pleasure.
Good to have you.